Hello, everyone. I'm Kurt Lidke. I'm the board chair of Klamath Film, and you just watched The Lost Story of the UO Mother's Day Powwow, a documentary created by University of Oregon students, along with their mentor, Katherine Wilson, who is no stranger to our festival. We celebrated her last year when we did a special screening of National Lampoon's Animal House. With us are several of the students who worked on the film, as well as Katherine. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Kurt. What an honor this is to see you again this year. And for this film, this student film that we started off with as a native training exercise, being selected by your esteemed film festival, you've honored me last year with that incredible Otis Day flying in and Vic Peterson coming down for showing Animal House of Blues, the first student film that actually also won awards. And showing that along with Animal House was such an honor. And what is happening here is this is a dream I've always wanted to do, which was to just be with my people and help the kids make films. And I got a grant from, thanks to Elderberry Wisdom Farm, who got me funded through the Oregon Cultural Trust and the National Endowment of the Arts. I was able to afford things like equipment and gas and food and the things to mentor young filmmakers. So what I do, how I mentor is I don't teach film and then make them go away and make one. What I do is get everybody together and we make it together and I show them how that is done. And I ask them, just like I did the kids at the U of O and cinema studies, what do you want to make? And the answer was, we've got this huge Mother's Day powwow coming up, which is a very big deal. It is, and actually the only University of Oregon heritage event. And we're celebrating our 55th year and we're crazy busy, but we don't have the history of how it started. And I went, oh my gosh, you guys, I was there. I'm actually in the 1969 film clip. I'm walking up the sidewalk to Johnson Hall, and then I walk through the crowd to the right. And a friend of mine gave me that footage, and I said, well, memories are selective. That was a long time ago. A lot was going on campus then. Let me cooperate my memory with the Oregon Daily Emerald newspaper articles. We also had an elder drive here from Salem with a huge binder of articles who remembered when it started, and we interviewed elders. And both Kimo and Princess who helped me interview Ed Edmo, who Princess did camera, and Kimo did sound, who is a celebrity Indian. He was in Portlandia. And he's a dear old friend, and he was here back then. So essentially, I did the research, the kids helped me do the interviews, and we put it all together with Jordan guiding what he thought. We also showed it here at the Longhouse, and Dr. Kirby Brown weighed in. And we had about 12 kids that were all looking at the film, giving us notes, talking us through what they would like to represent this incredible building and this incredible sacred space called the Yuba Longhouse. So that's all from me.
Well, wonderful. So, Princess and Kimo, if you could introduce yourselves and kind of the roles you played in the film, and also a little bit of how you got to be involved in it.
Hi, my name is Kimo. My role in the film was soundtrack, I guess you could say. Not sure how I got in that role. At first, I really didn't want to be in the role, but thanks to her, I was convinced.
Yeah. He's making his own film right now as his Princess. Princess just knocked out some incredible interviews at the Climate Powwow. They're both making their own projects. This one was Jordan's, though. This was his. And he finally found the 16 millimeter footage on this big wonky drive that plugs in. So now we can add that. And Professor Mitchell Block, the $2 million endowed chair of documentary production journalism, is giving us notes. So we're just doing a final polish for you, Kurt. Just tell us, how long we have to keep improving it, okay?
Sure, sure. So, Princess and Kimo, are you both film majors currently at University of Oregon, or is this something that you're doing in addition to your education pursuits?
Yeah, no, I'm not a film major. I'm definitely interested in the arts, but my primary focus is political science. I'm going to graduate soon, and I'll be studying for law school. So those are my primary interests, along with activism, being involved in my communities. I didn't get to introduce myself, but yeah, I'm Princess. I was cameraman for the Edro interview, and like Catherine mentioned, I'm doing my own project, which is on indigenous linguistics, specifically the Klamath, Modoc, and Paiute languages. And I recently shot interviews with community members at the Klamath Restoration Powwow.
Wonderful. So, this film, I'm so glad that this film was made because I grew up in Eugene. I feel like University of Oregon was like my second home. From the time I could walk, I was crawling around campus, and I've spent many years, as an aside, kind of as an unofficial University of Oregon historian. I've read through every old yearbook. There was the Yebfoot, the Webfoot, or the Oregana, the old student newspapers. And I've found some crazy stories from University of Oregon's past that I've been able to detail. This is one that I somehow missed in all of my research. And so I'm so glad that this story came about. But I know, just from my research, I know there's so many incredible stories about the history of the University of Oregon, even in film. The fact that the very first student film ever made in history was done by University of Oregon students back in the 1920s. But why this story? What motivated you to specifically want to make a documentary that tells the story of this aspect of University of Oregon culture that has been, for many people, is largely forgotten? My parents, Catherine, by the way, were in school at U of O the same time you were, and they never talked about this. So this was all new to me when the film was submitted.
Um, I know as a mentor that you need to ask the people that you want to mentor what they want to do, right? To get the passion and the involvement. And I also knew that, I have a special collection at the Knight Library. I had 12 suburban loads of movie memorabilia that I needed to find a safe place for. Part of it's the Oregon Film Museum in Astoria, part of it's at the film office, but most of it's here at the U of O. But the only thing the Knight Library had on the powwow was 3 pages of one brochure from 1983. It was a lost story. And as a screenplay writer, I know that the inciting incident, what was it that started this incredible Oregon Heritage event that, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have come to, and this tradition has been kept. And you know what? I found out why. It was because just like Animal House, the U of O didn't want Animal House to be known that this was the campus they shot at. I don't think the university really wanted it known that my boyfriend, Kip Morgan, the ASU vice president, had to sue the University of Oregon to get the money for the Native American Student Union. university didn't want it known that, we had a occupation of Johnson Hall for the minorities to get the money that John F. Kennedy had started for minorities. This is how I got to the U of O, was an affirmative action grant. This is how all of these kids were able to come together as a political constituency in the 60s and talk about activism to occupy Johnson Hall for minorities, including natives. That is something that they really didn't want to talk about. So for me, this was just connecting all the dots between what I personally experienced at the sit-in and the occupation, and what I knew was happening with the Black Panthers and with the natives on campus in the fall of '69. This story needed to be told, and this longhouse deserves to have that story. We
So
shot
for
powwow, a lot of cameras. We have an hour and a half film to make. This is like a sizzle film. If Jordan wants to do that, we have a lot of footage that isn't in this. So
I don't have any Native American blood, but I've always been fascinated by cultures. And I live close by to the Klamath Tribes reservation down here in Southern Oregon. And I've been very lucky in my career where I've been invited to ceremonies and festivals when I was a newspaper reporter to be able to cover various activities. And I know just as a student of history that Native American culture in general is something that's very steeped in history, but it's largely an auditory history. But in recent years, especially here in Klamath Tribes, and I certainly hope that's the case up in that area as well, there's been a sense of urgency that many of the elders are passing away and stories are being lost with their passing. And so now that this technology is so readily available, there's a rush to change from that auditory tradition to capturing and preserving these stories through film. So for our students who were here and for the others who worked on the film, was that a large motivating factor in ultimately deciding to make this film to make sure that the history of this activity at the University of Oregon is preserved?
I mean, there's just so much indigenous erasure of like our present as well as our history. We want to see ourselves in media because we're here existing, we're putting on these events, we have a strong, University of Oregon has like one of the strongest NASUs around, Native American Student Unions. So, I mean, everyone that I hear in the club was really excited to do this film because we got a chance to like share with other Native people what we have going on campus, and we're all proud of Mother's Day Powwow because it's been going on for so long. I have a great aunt who used to go to the UO Law School, and she even went to the Mother's Day Powwow. And because we recently did have the pandemic and like lockdown, we weren't able to have the Mother's Day Powwow for about, I think, 2 years, and we did it online. So I think this 2020 Mother's Day Powwow was so extravagant and important to the community because everyone from all over Oregon got to come in after not being able to like see each other, to like dance and to commune together. So I think it's a multitude of reasons why we're so excited to do this. But yeah.
So how many students ended up working on because this was a big communal film project. I know Katherine narrated, but everyone had their own little part in it. How many people were actively involved in the production of this film?
12.
12? Okay, great. And how all the pre-production and recording and compilation materials, how long would you say that this film has been in the works?
Actually, because we needed to do a film training fairly quickly. This was done very quickly. That's why, and that's why I'm going back and helping with the credits and just polishing it, because we had to get busy on their own projects for the grant that I got. But I did want to say this, Kurt, which is that Rose Highbear started Wisdom of the Elders 30 years ago with Wakata holy man Martin Highbear, who said it's time we start recording the stories of the elders. And she has recorded elders for 30 years. Then she moved into trying to do food sovereignty, that arena, and moved to Salem. Wisdom of the Elders is still doing this. They want to work with me and us down here, but elderberry wisdom was about, the foods, the elderberries, and growing them and learning how to even have a business to do that. She was the one that got the funding for me to do this here at the U of O. So she's got a long history of recording elders and quite a library of incredible stories. But there's pushback because our oral traditions are sacred, and to film them, for instance, you cannot film. Kimo wanted to interview me for his about the 10,000-year-old seven drum songs, but he couldn't film me singing one and ringing the bell because it's sacred. So it's been navigating that. What can we record? And now it's really opened up so we can tell a lot more stories.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to more stories being shared. I completely understand what you're saying. There's been times where I've covered an event for a newspaper and I've been told there's some things I can and can't take photographs of, or can and can't take video footage of, and I always want to be respectful of that. But when you do have a grand tradition that is time immemorial of stories being handed down in an auditory form, and if for some reason there's a disconnect, those stories can get lost if we don't preserve them. So I see great value in that kind of work. So I commend those who have taken the time to share these stories. And I think also culture has changed a lot in recent years. Especially, film has been at the forefront of that. We don't have to touch on all of the massive mistakes in American history. We don't have time to dwell on all of that. But more modern day, it does seem like there is an effort to maybe right some of the wrongs from the past, and try to find forms of healing. And film has been able to do that quite a bit in terms of fixing some of the portrayals of Native Americans throughout history, and also showcasing culture in a new light. And this film does that in a very profound way. So thank you very much on behalf of all of the viewers of this for showing something beyond the old cliches that people of Katherine's generation grew up with every Western film showing the same 10 Native Americans over and over again doing the exact same thing, when it really wasn't, epitomizing the culture. And now we're at a point where we are trying to better understand and appreciate the past and the present, and hopefully that continues into the future. So I personally just want to say thank you to all of the students who have worked on this project for enlightening us with this history associated with the University of Oregon and Native American culture in the state of Oregon, which is something that, at least down here, we're seeing more of an effort to try to showcase publicly, as well as preserve. So keep up the good work. I know there's not really a question there, but I just wanted to say keep up the great work on that.
Thank you very much.
Is there any aspect of this film that we have not discussed yet that the three of you would like to make sure gets mentioned?
Just to add on to why it was so important for the Mother's Day powwow doc to be made. It's not just about the preservation or like the historical aspect, but it's also a celebration, I would say. I just, yeah, just from that like viewpoint, from specifically as Native people and being able to like share culture and like rejoice in the practices that we like have evolved and like also that we're taking from the past. I just want to emphasize it's not just about the preservation, because I mean, for the Native community here in Eugene or in Oregon or in general, it's not just about like um, showcasing. I mean, we're very much targeting each other. We want to share like cultural exchange, kind of. It's not just like we want the outside community to know like what's going on with us. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
And we
So,
want the community to know, because of that ideology and that old stereotypical wooden Indian savage, it's so entrenched in our culture in America. The most important thing for me is we are still here. We are still here and we are making films about our culture. And it's not, we're not in the past. We're the future. We really are. These kids are the future. And that's why it's so important to me to mentor them and put a camera in their hands so they can tell the story. Today, I'm giving Princess my film camera.
Was that a surprise? Oh my god, wow.
And I've got 2 giant trunks of lighting equipment that Kimo and Jordan are going to get. I'm going to work on sound for Kimo. So this is my gift back to them for the gift that they gave. It's been
wonderful.
such a joy. And Kurt, thank you for the Running Y Ranch last year. We got to stay there this year during the powwow. It was just fabulous.
Uh,
It would be a great gift to Klamath Independent Film Festival. Honoring me for my career was so huge. You have no idea.
Well, I appreciate that. It was also a huge pleasure for me, a huge bucket list item for me, because as we had talked about before, I was nearly born at Dexter Lake Club. My mom went into labor while my parents were sailing at Dexter Lake, so I felt like from day one of my life I've had a special connection to National Lampoon's Animal House. But Kimo, we haven't had a chance to hear from you much, and I want to make sure that you get a final say. And if there's any final thoughts about the film or your role in the film, any aspects that you thought were maybe were challenging that you were able to overcome that you want to be able to share with our audience.
I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I wasn't really that interested at first. I was more focused on other aspects of my education. But thanks to Katherine here, I was able to find out that it's important for me to learn more about my culture, the Native people.
Terrific. Well, Princess, Kimo, and Katherine, thank you so much for your work on this film. Thank you for submitting it to the Klamath Independent Film Festival. And thank you for this work to preserve and share this incredible story about history, present, and hopefully future of the University of Oregon and Native American culture in the state of Oregon. This film is available for a limited time as part of the Klamath Independent Film Festival, exclusively online as part of our online showcase. So thank you, Princess, thank you, Kimo, and thank you, Katherine, for being a part of KIFF 2023.